Hi, welcome. I'm Sanctus and I'm going to show you everything about Woodworks. If you want to install the assets as an expansion of Sanctus Library, you can go to Edit Preferences, extract the zip file, the expansion zip file, go to the Expansions tab here, install, find the folder where you extracted the files, select the Woodworks expansion, press install, and you will see the new expansion here. Once installed, in the add-ons panel, you will have in materials a new category called Woodworks with all the materials. And also in the Geometry Nodes tab, you will have the same category with the Geometry Nodes assets. If you prefer to use it from the asset browser, go to Edit Preferences, File Path. In Libraries, click the plus button here. Find the folder where you extracted the asset browser version files and click Add Asset Library. You can rename it here. You can save preferences. Then if we go to the asset browser, you will see the Geometry Nodes assets and the materials. If you go to the documentation, the link will be in the description of the video. You have information about every single asset, how to install the pack, how every parameter works, and everything you need to know about the assets. Before we start, we can see that a lot of materials have a 3D, start with 3D. That means that the materials are not, don't require UVs and are based on a 3D mapping texture, not 2D. So basically, as you can see, we have different texture depending on the direction of the grain of the wood. I also used the dimensions of the object to avoid stretching. It's always like if the object was carved from a trunk. You can see here, if we scale this, the texture will not stretch. Scale Y. You always have here options to change that mapping. For example, if maybe it wasn't cut in the center of the tree, so you can offset a bit the center. You can also rotate it. This also works if the object is not a cube, for example. If we change this, it will still be as if it was cut from the same tree. In the case the object was, for example, in another direction, let's say, let's scale this on X and set scale. Now we have to change the direction instead of this way along X axis. Here we have 1 is X, so I will change it to 1. And now the direction is along this axis. We can see the rings. There's also a demo scene showing every single asset. You have them in different collections here. The Geometry Nodes assets and the materials. The smart materials also have an edge wear, some dirt. This will change if the object scale is different because it's based, this is distance. So if the object is very small, for example, you would see how the edge is basically taking all over the object there. If we decrease the distance at some point, you would see how we have the edge again. The same goes for the dirt. There's also here in the other parameters, normal bevel radius. So if you have, let's remove the edges. We can see those sharp edges in low poly geometry. You can use here maybe 0.01, and you will have this bevel here for a quick result. In the worn edge, you have control for how uniform or irregular that border is. If we put it like this, it will be every single edge is worn, but we have this to give it more organic look. We have clipwood. While using Sanctus Library, you always have an icon here that will bring you to the documentation of that specific asset. It has a description for every single parameter. Those are you can control the amount of knots, the strength of the deformation, that's here, how much it deforms the wood texture, how dark it gets. And the mapping will stretch them. You can stretch them along the grain. Normally it's a bit stretched along the grain. Usually if you're going to use it, it's a good idea to try first the overall scale that will scale the tiles and the wood texture. So we can set it to 3, for example. You can also rotate the pattern. And you can completely remove the gap. Maybe you don't want this to be noticed. You have the control to make it darker and the gap. So you will still see a seam because there are tiles, but you won't see the gap. In basically every material you will find a way to add more or less contrast to the rings. That will also depend on the color you're using and what you're doing with your material. Sometimes closer colors look better, and sometimes you want to show a bit more difference. You will also have a mapping ring scale. Will scale the material across grain, and along the grain scale you can stretch it in this direction. We have a random center that will randomize a bit the position of the center, and it will be different for every instance of or copy of the object. The smart materials have a lot more options. In this case, we are using the dust, a bit of edge wear. I invite you to go to the documentation and read about the parameters. In the 3D materials, it's a bit harder to map the knots, so I added a specific seed offset here. I created a peeling system that follows a bit the wood grain, like you can see here, and makes it way more realistic than using just a noise. You can adjust that in the paint. This, for example, I will remove that factor, so it will be just noise. It's also stretched on the same direction of the grain, so it will also look good. But if you combine it a bit with the pattern of the wood, you will see even the knots participate in the peeling process. Here are some painted and dusty woods. There are also some cracks, as you can see, in the ends of the material, bottom and top. And we also have some random across the object. Here you can see a knot and how the painting is also following the texture of the knot. Those cracks can be also controlled. We have here, we have the end cracks intensity. I will remove them completely. And those are the random ones. Those are other cracks intensity 0. And those will change with seed also. We also have some gain Rattan. Those are require UVs, obviously. There are some specific EEVEE versions of some of the materials. We have EEVEE 3D Wood. It's basically, they work the same, just a bit more simple in the textures. There's also EEVEE Clip Wood. And EEVEE Veneer. This material is also interesting because you can do, for example, tables. The EEVEE version is a bit more stylized, but let's see here, Veneer Wood. The interesting thing about this is that it's endless wood that you can use, for example, on furniture. It's based on UV mapping, of course. We have a tiling that will go across the grain. For example, in this case, it's repeating 5 times. We cannot see it in this version. Let me see. It's easier to see, and because they use different textures, it's easier to see here. Let's use some variation per tile so we can see them. Okay, and here we can change a bit the center of each one, as you can see. But if we remove the variation, you basically have infinite wood texture that you can use on different furnitures. Let's scale this overall 3. As you can see, this can be interesting to create a big surface of wood. Here we have the buckets. The assets also use a kind of mapping that won't stretch the wood. So you can change the size and the mapping will be automatically compensated. And here you can check the documentation to see what every parameter does. You have the amount of planks, the height, the amount of bands there, different shapes, and the liquid. And if you go to the modifiers tab, you have also the materials used. You can change them. We have the chairs. There's a lot of flexibility also here. You can change the height of the back. We have the angle of the back and also if it's straight or curved. The position of every part of the chair. Also if it's curved or not. Same for the other part. The amount of bars, the thickness. Whenever you want to transform this into mesh, you can realize instances and apply the modifier. So there we have the tables, basically similar to the chairs. We have the position of the legs. height. As you can see, the wood will adapt. The sides. And also materials for tabletop and legs and etc. We have some staircases. Here you can choose the amount of turns that it, in this case, is 2. So it starts here, 2 turns, ends there. You have the height of the last step. That's the height of the stair. And we also have the column continues for 2 meters. We have how many steps per turn. So if we have 3 turns, that will be 60 steps. One, you will see that there are only 20. You can change the radius of the column. And there are controls for the steps. You can remove the railing, reverse the direction. Okay, so we are going to see a bit the wood fence. We can select a target if you're using the add-on and draw on surface or apply to a curve that you already have. I will use this one and I will draw something. By default, it will be assigning the target object here. You can do it manually if you're applying to a curve. And that means that it will stick to the surface if you have dynamic clicked. And if you change a bit the terrain, it will adapt to the surface. It's also procedural materials here, and even if you change completely the shape, the mapping will adapt. So for example, let's change the height. And this also. And as you can see, the mapping is correct. Also, if we change the width, it won't stretch. We have different setups. You can reverse the side if you want, flip side. Now if you remove the modifier, I can apply a different one to the same curve. And we have this. A bit more stylized. And this one. You can always change the colors. The Wicker will use the UVs of the object to apply a material, and also will find borders to apply the Wicker border. So in this case, we are going to try here, apply. As you can see, we have the border and the material. The material can be controlled from the shader editor. Make sure you have the same Wicker material as Wicker 01. And I will find same one here. Now if I change the values, now I can change the scale, the bump multiplier. And I will show you the other ones. You can also change the separation to let the light get through. As you can see here. And lastly, we have the blank surface that will basically convert any object or most objects into a blank surface. You have the different parameters for the planks and the planks positions, separations and everything. And you can even edit the object in real time. But basically it's a quick way to get results. No UVs, no nothing. You can even start from a plane here. Or create a floor. And that's it. If you have any questions, you can join the Discord. Thanks for watching.